If you had to tell me that that sounds criminally insane, I really couldn't argue with you. I know that we all grew up on Matilda, and Matilda was us. This is a book about ableism and lying. I bought these purely because of the covers. I grew up on Tumblr, which means that I grew up on Hemingway quotes. Hey, hi, hello, welcome back to the channel. My name is Amy, and today we are going to be releasing some books back into the wild. I spent some time this weekend looking at all of the books that I have amassed. Am I the problem? Yes. Yes, I am. Did I buy all of these books with my own money? For the most part, also yes. And is it embarrassing to have to let some go without ever having read them? The answer, third time in a row, yes. So what I have done is I am surrounded by a couple pile of books. I have broken them up into 5 different segments, and I think we're just going to start with the tallest segment and work our way down to the smallest. We're getting rid of 1 or 2 books, so if you would like to see what we're getting rid of, why we're getting rid of it, please feel free to settle in, and we're going to jump straight into it. Pile number 1 is all about the aesthetics. It is a tale as old as time. You'll be out and about, cruising, perusing, and a book cover will catch your eye. Imagine yourself walking closer and picking up the book, only to realize that you already own a copy of said book at home, except the copy you're holding right now has a cooler cover. What you do in that situation is your own business, but me, I tend to buy the second copy, even if I haven't read the initial copy that I already own. And if you had to tell me that that sounds criminally insane, I really couldn't argue with you, so you can have that one. Put it in the bank because it's not going to happen again. Book number 1 is Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. I honestly need to stop myself from purchasing classics because for someone who purchases and owns as many classics as I do not read enough of them to justify having the collection that I have. This, however, is one of those times where I found a cool vintage copy and so I bought it. It was really cheap, it was secondhand, but this one has to go. Now, if I wanted to justify myself, I would say that this is a Collins edition, and I really don't like Collins editions of classics. They are, however, very accessible because they are very cheap. And the reason I think they're cheap is that nobody else likes them either. Next up, we have Flight Behavior by Barbara Kingsolver. Now, if you've been here a minute and you've been watching diligently, you will know that I read a Barbara Kingsolver that I really didn't enjoy for episode 1 of my Spine and Punishment challenge, which is a challenge in which I try to read all of the books on my physical TBR. And if you wanted to assume that I'm getting rid of this Barbara Kingsolver because I didn't like that Barbara Kingsolver, that would be a fair assumption. I own 2 editions of this book, one that I bought for myself, this one, and one that John gifted me. Being the soft, sentimental human being that I am, I'm obviously keeping the one that John bought for me, but this one can no longer sit on my shelves. The second edition that I own of this is kind of not safe either, if we're being honest, because this takes place in the Appalachians, and one of the biggest problems I had with the last Barbara Kingsolver that I read was that I didn't really like how she described the people of that region. I thought it was very stereotypical in a very harmful and unnuanced way. And so I might just get rid of my second edition of this book as well. But for right now, this one is definitely gotta go. Now, before anyone yells at me, I know Matilda is a classic. I know that we all grew up on Matilda, and Matilda was us. That's why we watch book videos. This is an Afrikaans edition of the book, and I do have its English companion on my shelves, safely tucked away between all of my other children's classics. This one, however, is not going to be read by me ever, and so I feel it can go to a more loving home. The next selection is a couple of books, and they are all Shakespeare plays. Every drama student worth their salt has at least 1 or 2 Shakespeare plays on their bookshelves. I don't make the rules, I just live here. But as for me, I have the completed works of Shakespeare on my shelves, and it is humongous. So I feel like we really don't need any more real estate for Mr. Shakespeare, and these can go find cooler homes. In a similar vein, we are getting rid of an incomplete collection of the Foundation series by Isaac Asimov. I initially bought these because I wanted my stepdad to think I was cool, and I have not yet read them. I think giving these away would be a travesty if John did not also own most of the collection in these exact covers, because I love me an old sci-fi cover. I think these are so cool. But because I've been trying to finish my collection for a little while now, I do also know that these are actually pretty hard to come by, and so I feel like instead of housing 2 separate collections, we can get rid of one of those two. John has actually read the Foundation series and really enjoyed it, and so it just made sense to keep his collection and get rid of mine. Then we have Enduring Love by Ian McEwan. I fell in love with Ian McEwan in high school because we watched Atonement as one of our films in English, and when I found out it was based on a book, because I loved that movie, I absolutely had to gobble it up, and I had a really good time. I've been collecting Ian McEwan's ever since, but I have a really cool older edition of this book with like a little illustration on the cover, which I prefer to this one. Then we have two Zadie Smiths. I really enjoy Zadie Smith's essay collections, and I have been trying to get more into her fiction, so I have been building that collection for a little while. The first book is The Autograph Man. I was gifted another copy by John, and so again, for sentimental purposes, this is the one that got cut. And then I also own the Penguin inked edition of White Teeth, which is about 1 billion times cooler than this hardcover right here. It is also a paperback, which is the format that I prefer to read in personally. Another classic, we have A Summary of The Second Sex by Simone de Beauvoir, but I also own the complete edition of The Second Sex by Simone de Beauvoir, and therefore feel that the summary is a bit redundant. Lastly, we have two Margaret Atwoods. I love Margaret Atwood's writing, and so I am trying to collect everything she has ever written in her lifetime ever. So here we have Alias Grace. I have a newer edition of this that I also believe I got as a gift, so I will be keeping that one for sentimental purposes. And then I found a very cool vintage edition of Cat's Eye by Margaret Atwood, and so I will be donating this one to a happier home. The next pile is all to do with DNFs. So some of these you will have seen me DNF in previous videos, and if that is the case, I will link the relevant video up top, but others you have not yet seen me talk about. So, starting off with one you are familiar with, I read Dracula by Bram Stoker for my spooky season vlog. If you have not seen that vlog, please go give it some love. I am generally more of a Christmas person, but this year I really decided to give Halloween a shot, and I made a bingo card. It was super fun. One of the items on the bingo card was to read a spooky classic. I picked up Dracula because who doesn't love vampires, and found myself bored to tears, and so this will be finding a new home. Next up, we have a book talk darling. We have The Secret History by Donna Tartt. Everyone raved about this book. I decided to give it a shot with my friend. We read it as like a buddy read book club situation. It was going to be a whole vlog, but it was so homophobic and sexist that I just could not bring myself to read the rest of it, and so this one is out. Then we have The Memory Keeper's Daughter by Kim Edwards. I feel like this is Jodi Picoult before Jodi Picoult was Jodi Picoult, if you know what I mean. This is a book about ableism and lying, and so it just rubbed me up in all the wrong ways, and I cannot wait to get it off of my shelves. Then we have The Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde. I cannot really remember the premise of this book. I know that I bought it because it won the Pulitzer Prize for fiction, but I started reading it. It was instantly fatphobic, and so I stopped, and I've had no desire to return to it, and so we're gonna have to say goodbye. Next, we have two short story collections by literary giants. We have Nocturnes by Kazuo Ishiguro and Blind Willow's Sleeping Women by Murakami. So I have never read Murakami or Ishiguro, and so I thought the short story collections would be a good place to start. I started both collections, was not really drawn in by the writing of either one. I am, however, still going to give Kazuo Ishiguro and Murakami a shot, just because I believe that not every writer is a short story writer. But because I had no interest to return to either of these novels, Nocturnes and Blind Willow's Sleeping Woman will be leaving my shelves. The next two hurt my heart. We have A Magic Steeped in Poison and A Venom Dark and Sweet by Judy I. Lin, and I bought these purely because of the covers. Look at them. They are the most stunning covers I have ever seen in my entire life. I was worried that they were going to read a bit on the YA side of things, which can be very hit or miss for me personally, but I started reading A Magic Steeped in Poison, which is book 1, and I just wasn't vibing with it. I do think it read a little young, and I was finding some of the prose just a little bit stunted, and so somebody else will be so stoked to receive these. Another classic makes its way onto the list. This is For Whom the Bell Tolls by Ernest Hemingway. I grew up on Tumblr, which means that I grew up on Hemingway quotes. This man was quoted all over the place in the circles that I found myself in, and I was really hoping to fall in love with his writing, and so I put it off for literal years. I finally decided I was brave enough to pick it up last year after reading Jeanette Winterson's Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit, in which this book is referenced quite a lot, and I did not like it. I found it very boring, and I will say no more. Then we have Chernobyl Strawberries. This is a memoir. For those of you who don't know, memoirs are one of my favorite genres to read of all time. And for some reason, I've tried picking this one up 4 to 5 times and I've just never finished it. And so I think I'm taking it as a sign that I am just not going to fall into this one as I hoped I would. This one left me conflicted, I'm not going to lie to you. I tried picking it up not too long ago, and I really enjoyed the way that Carol Shields wrote her character. I really enjoyed the very small mundane moments that were making up the description of this man's life, but it kind of lost its charm somewhere along the way, and I just found myself feeling bored, and so this one is going to have to go too. The first non-fiction of the pile has arrived. This is Dish, How Gossip Became the News and the News Became Just Another Show. I was also very excited about this one. I do enjoy non-fiction, but I'm kind of picky about the way that it's told. This one is very dates, facts heavy, and as much as I respect it as a non-fiction, it is just not the kind of non-fiction that holds my interest. I choose to believe that there is somebody out there for every book, and so I hope to high heavens that the next pair of hands this book lands in will appreciate it in the way that it deserves. The last 2 books were from my Spine and Punishment Challenge episode 2, so I will link that up top. Hello friends, I'm so sorry for the sudden interruption. We were hit by a flash storm, and so the sound quality just got too trash to continue. So while I can't turn back time, I can wear the red lipstick again and sit in somewhat of the same position. I don't know, I tried my best. So lastly, on this pile, we have Selling Lip Service by Tammy Bikey. I started reading this and I immediately just didn't like the writing style. I just thought this one was really overwritten, which is not a complaint you hear much of in this house because I am someone who likes pretty dense descriptors, but this one just didn't work for me. The next category is all about changing and evolving as a human being. To qualify for this category, the books have had to be on my shelves for more than 2 years. All of them, unfortunately, have made the cut, and what we're doing right now is really just being honest with ourselves because I have passed over these books for so many TBRs, so many reading challenges, and I think it's time to come to terms with the fact that they're just never going to be picked up. Starting off, we have The Bone Settler's Daughter by Amy Tan. This is kind of like a book within a book situation. We have an elderly woman who is writing about her childhood and growing up in China in the 1930s, I believe. Yes. And one day, one of her family members stumbles across this memoir. I just have no interest in picking this one up. I don't think I read as much historical fiction as I used to, and so now I get really picky with it. I think something that does tie all of these books together as well is that I have tried to read them at least once, save for one book in the pile who's actually just here on a moldy defect, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Then we have The Vanishing Act by Met Jacobson, and this one makes me kind of sad. I have put this one on reading lists before. The blurb is such a banger, but I've never gotten through it, and so I believe that it is time to let this one go. But if you are interested, this is a story about a girl who lives on this really small island. I think it's got a lot to do with isolation because one day she wakes up and finds that her mother is gone. It's got really compelling things happening in the blurb. It says it's about a magician and a priest and a dog called No Name. It's about a father's endless hunt for the truth. It's about a dead boy who listens. And so I think this could be really cool. It sounds very magical realism heavy, which is something that I still like reading, but for some reason I've just never actually committed to this book, and so it's going to find someone who can. Then we have The English Language, A Historical Introduction by Charles Barber. Now, I studied English in university. I really enjoyed my time. It was one of my favorite subjects, and as such I wanted to learn more once I had left university. However, I have a amassed quite a collection of textbooks, and this one is on the shorter side, which should actually be a win, but I do have longer, more comprehensive texts on basically the same topic, and so I feel like this could be actually useful to someone who is studying right now. Following that, we have 5 Odd. This is a science fiction short story collection, and well, the cover is also, again, really, really cool. I think I just kind of have to come to terms with the fact that Isaac Asimov is not someone I'm excited to read about right now. I have had this for a really long time. It is a really short book, and so I really have no excuse for not having read it in the past 2 years. I do think, again, cool cover, travesty, you've heard it all, but I will be letting go of this one as well. Next up, we have The Invention of Wings by Sue Monk Kidd. I have somewhat of a contextual problem with this one. This is a story about a girl. Her name is Handful, and she is a slave. The biggest problem that I have with the story is that the author is white, and I just don't know if she is the right person to be telling this kind of story. I'm not entirely sure it's going to be told with the grace or the understanding necessary to fully do this perspective justice. I am, for this reason, going to be getting rid of this one, but please do let me know, how do you feel about writers writing about racial experiences that aren't their own? Do you think it's okay? Do you think it's a problem? I would be very interested in hearing your thoughts. We have another book I picked up to impress a man. This time the man was John's father. So John's father is a very big fan of Anthony Burgess. All I have read from him, and I don't think I even completed it, was The Clockwork Orange, because I was part of a play in uni where we were doing kind of like a commentary or like a companion piece to The Clockwork Orange. Anyway, I digress. I told John's dad about this tale, and he said he loves Anthony Burgess and I should really try to give his other writing a shot. I bought this book almost immediately, and the more I look at it, the more it fills me with dread, and so I just don't think that we are compatible. This one is called A Dead Man in Deptford. It is a joyous celebration of the life of Christopher Marlowe, murdered in highly suspicious circumstances in a tavern brawl in Deptford 400 years ago. Then we have The Fourth Treasure by Todd Shimoda. This is an immigrant story. As far as I understand, it's about a woman who is a graduate. I think she's studying something to do with research. Her mother is a Japanese immigrant living in San Francisco. Yes, she is very far removed from her cultural heritage. Her boyfriend, however, is Japanese and he does calligraphy. And once his Japanese calligraphy teacher has a stroke, she sees the stroke victim as like the perfect research subject. I don't really know any more than that, but this one has been on my shelves for possibly upwards of 5 years and I've just never read it, and so I don't think I am ever going to. Lastly, in this category, we have The Four-Gated City by Doris Lessing. Doris Lessing is an author that I've enjoyed in the past. I read her book, I think it's called The Golden Notebook. It's something about a notebook, and I had a really good time, so I have been collecting some of her books ever since. This one, however, is moldy. So I don't know how long that's been happening. This book has been in storage for a little bit, and none of the other books seem to be affected. But I didn't know where else to place this one. Seeing as I haven't read it yet, this seemed to be the most apt category. And so this one we won't be donating or finding a new home. This one might just have to be plain old thrown away. If you have any ideas of how I can rescue this book, maybe if you know how to treat mold on books, I don't know if that's possible, let me know in a comment down below. I'm not opposed to turning this into something crafty, so if you have any ideas, let a girl know. We've made it to the last category. We have The Banished, and I am very late to this conversation, but I do think that it's important for people to know where I stand. So earlier this year, there was a bit of a hullabaloo going around about whether or not reading is political. Some people were arguing that they read as a form of escapism, and it therefore shouldn't concern itself with politics. I disagree with that notion. I disagree with that take. I think it's a bad and a harmful take because reading is 10,000% political. There is a very specific author that comes to mind when we are having this conversation, and I think you already know who she is. Growing up, I loved Harry Potter. I started reading it when I was 11, and I read it as I was growing up. So I grew up with Harry in like this weird metaphorical way. There is a lot of nostalgia around that series for me personally, and I know that that's the same for a lot of different people, and I know that it's a very touchy subject. right? And so I'm not going to tell you what to do, and I'm not going to tell you how to react. I will, however, just let you know that I want my bookshelves to be a reflection of the things that I care about and the things that I believe in. And J.K. Rowling's politics and the way she is treating the trans community does not align with that belief. And while I think it would be easier to ignore it, to keep it on my shelves, that is not really a reflection of who I want to be. It's not a reflection of how I want to be perceived, and I would really hate if my nostalgia helped to maintain something that I don't believe in. And so I'm going to be getting rid of my Harry Potter collection. I don't have the full collection, because I read my dad's copies growing up, but we are going to be getting rid of the Tales of the Beetle and the Bard, the 20-year edition of the Philosopher's Stone, and Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, and lastly, the illustrated edition of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. This one hurts my heart the most because I really do love the illustrations in here, but I don't want to be associated with someone with so many harmful views. If you're wondering what J.K. Rowling has done to deserve all of the backlash that she has gotten, I am not an expert on that matter. I can tell you loosely that she is actively funding policies that put trans lives in danger and that deny people the medical care that I believe should be an inherent human right. So if you would like to learn more about that, I will leave some resources down below that you are more than welcome to check out. But that is that for today. That is all of my unhauled books. I really appreciate getting to spring clean with you, and hopefully by getting rid of the placeholders on my shelves that were never going to be read, we can allow some better reading into our lives in 2026. My name is Amy. I upload videos every second week. It has been such an honor and a privilege to have you here. Thank you so much for liking and commenting and subscribing. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye.